Most students are taught that going to college is the only route to success in their education. But is college worth it? Is college outdated? These are two questions that we're going to answer today. And if you are wondering whether college is the right route for you or for your child, stay tuned because we're going to talk about the costs and benefits associated with college, what you really gain, and what it really costs you, so that you can make a confident decision about whether it's the right route for you or for your child. My name is Josh, and this is Engineering a Better Education. So, when I look back on my education experience, I realized that I was always taught that college is the only route to success in education. I didn't know that there were other options, and I thought that if I didn't go to college, it meant that I was a failure as a student or a failure academically. I was taught by school teachers, counselors, I think my parents as well, that you needed to go to college. And that's what I did. And I earned a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in engineering, biomedical engineering. And looking back, I realized that I've learned a lot of things since then. And I don't regret the path that I took. Honestly, college does have its benefits, and there are a lot of great things that I learned in my college degree, and I wouldn't be where I am today without it. However, there was some cost associated with it, and of course, we know that college costs money and it costs time as well, and that's something that we don't always think about. So, when I finished high school and I was ready to go to college, the funny thing I guess is I didn't know what I wanted to do with my career yet. I just knew that I should go to college, and I knew that that was what I wanted to do. So my freshman year, I kind of just randomly chose a major, and that happened to be biomedical engineering. And I got kind of lucky because I got it on the first try. I figured out what I wanted to do. But I know that not a lot of students are that lucky. A lot of students are in the same boat that I was, which is they don't know what they want to do for a career path, and they don't know what they want to study, and they pick something, get a little ways into it, find out that that's not what they're passionate about, and go back to the beginning, pick a different major, and start their college career over. And a lot of students do this in the first few semesters, but I have some friends and know some people that have gotten all the way through a college degree only to realize that they hated the subject that they were studying. And one person that I can think of went all the way back to freshman year and started over. A couple people actually that I can think of went all the way back and started over with a different major. And that costs a lot of money and a lot of time. And I know it's really difficult to know what you want to do early on. And that's why I think it's important to have these conversations when students are younger, high school age, maybe junior high age, and tell them. I think the question should center a little more around what do you want to do rather than what college do you want to go to. Because I remember I decided what college I was going to go to before I decided what I want to do. But I think that should be the other way around. I think people should be deciding what they want to do and then deciding whether college makes sense for them, and then deciding if college does make sense, where they want to go to school. So I mentioned that I've learned some things since going to college, and I want to share a quick story, which is while I was in my later years of college, I think it was around my last year of undergrad, maybe second to last year of undergrad, I was dating the girl who's now my wife, and she was renting a house with a couple of roommates, and the landlord was one of those roommates. He was living with them, so he owned the house and was renting it out to two other people, and he was doing really well for himself. And interestingly, he didn't go to college. He actually got a job straight out of high school, and he was working as a delivery driver, I believe, for FedEx. And I thought it was kind of funny because I was in my last year or two of undergrad in an engineering degree, and I was broke. I was dirt poor. I could barely even afford to buy a junker car. And here was this person who hadn't gone to college at all and already owned a house and was paying off his house without spending much money out of pocket because he was renting it, and was actually spending less time than I was. He was spending less time working than I was on schoolwork. And I was thinking, well, as soon as I get out of college, like I'll make up all that lost ground, and I'm sure I'll be farther ahead than he is. But that I don't think that's the case. Actually, he's got 5, maybe 6 years ahead of me of working time, and so he's in a lot better place financially than I am, even a few years out of college. So I I don't think I would enjoy being a delivery driver for FedEx. That's a personal decision. I really enjoy engineering. I'm super passionate about it. So the path that I made makes more sense overall for my career desires and interests. But from a financial standpoint, if what I cared about was making money early, then perhaps it would have made more sense to go his route, start on a job right out of high school, buy a house, grow the equity in that house. And I'm happy for him. He's great, and I hope that things continue to go well for him. But that is an example that shows that it's good to figure out what you want to do and then optimize for that path. And the college route is not worth it for everybody. There are a lot of people that it makes sense for. So in my case, if you want to get a job working as an engineer in industry, a college degree is required by almost every company, unless you work for a small startup. And so in that case, the college route is more or less required. And there are a lot of other options out there that exist, such as trade schools, apprenticeships, and you can take entrepreneurial routes as well. We know that some of the big names and common examples, such as Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, did not graduate college because they decided they wanted to go the entrepreneurial route. And it made sense for them to focus on starting at Microsoft or Apple. So I want to talk about what are the true benefits of college and what are the costs, the sometimes overlooked costs associated with going to college. So I think a lot of times we confuse the words education with college, but they are two separate words with two separate meanings. College is just one means of obtaining an education, but education is the pursuit of knowledge. It is becoming empowered by the knowledge that we receive. Knowledge is power. So if you want to be an empowered individual, if you want your kids to be empowered to act in society and to do something great, then they need knowledge, they need an education. Once again, that may look like college or it might look like something else. So what do you get when you go to college? Of course, we know that you get a degree if you finish college, which will qualify you for certain jobs out of college. It'll meet that kind of baseline requirement that you need a bachelor's degree, for example. I've broken it down into 4 things that I realized I gained from college. Number 1 is I gained a commitment. College costs a lot of money and it costs a lot of time. And when people pay, they pay attention. When people pay a lot, they pay a lot of attention. So because I was paying so much, we'll say time, for example, and in my case and the case with a lot of students is that you can get a scholarship that'll pay for a lot of school, but at the same time you still see those tuition costs every semester. And so even if I wasn't paying out of pocket for every semester, I could see that the semester was costing $10,000, $15,000, whatever. And so in my mind, I placed a high value on this education that I was getting. And as I mentioned, there was the time cost. I was spending a lot of hours every week studying, going to class, probably 50 to 60 hours most weeks through the difficult part of my schooling. And so I was committed to school because it was like the biggest thing going on in my life. So the things that I learned in college, I could have learned outside of college. Honestly, with the internet, you can learn anything you want today for free. But what would have been lacking and where I would have fallen short is I wouldn't have had that commitment if I was just learning things for free on the internet. So that's number one, gained commitment from going to college. Number two is community. Community is not necessarily guaranteed when you step on a college campus, but it is easier to find community. And that's because there are a lot of students like you who are interested in the same things that you are. You get separated into your majors, the choice that you've chosen, the subject that you've chosen to study. And so in my case, where I did biomedical engineering, I was surrounded by a couple hundred students that all wanted to study biomedical engineering. And we had the same classes together. We were studying for the same exams, doing the same homework problems. And so I made some really great friends in college. There were a group of maybe 6 to 8 of us that would study together. And I am still in touch with a lot of them. They're really great friends. So I was fortunate to gain that level of community. And I think a lot of people are. Once again, that's not guaranteed. But that's number two. You gain a community. That's something that you might not necessarily get, once again, if you're just trying to learn things on your own on the internet. Number three is that you gain access to experts. So what I mean is that you are surrounded by a lot of college professors who should be experts in their craft. If they're teaching at a university, then they should have a good understanding of the things that they're teaching. A lot of them, in my case, were doing research for the university. So I did have access to experts in the field. Where I went to school, there's a lot of great research in the biomedical engineering space, in particular with neurorobotics. So there were 2 or 3 labs that were focused on creating neurorobotic prosthetics, so robot arms essentially for amputees, people who've lost a limb. So it was really neat. I could talk to them if I ever had questions about what was happening in that field. What was the gold standard of care like? But in the college setting, I needed to take initiative if I wanted to capitalize that access to experts. There were no college professors coming to me to give me personal mentorship or anything like that. I needed to reach out to them. But that was a benefit of being there. And number 4 was access to resources. College campuses, universities, they have a lot of money and they have a lot of resources. So I had access to equipment in certain labs. I had access to a bunch of 3D printers, a maker space, which was like a little prototype shop that had a CNC mill that I could use to create different items and things. And whenever I was in a class that had a lab, we were given the resources that we needed, maybe a breadboard for like an electrical engineering class, things like that. But what I will say is I think you pay a lot more money for those resources on a college campus than you would if you were to just pay for them on your own. And that's because you pay a lot of money for college and you're kind of paying for this whole package deal that comes with the access to experts, comes with the access to resources, and comes with all of the classes and lectures that you're taking. So to sum it up, those are 4 benefits, 4 things that you really gain when you go to college. It's that commitment, the commitment to study and learn the topic that you've chosen. It's the community, to be surrounded with like-minded individuals. It's the access to experts and access to resources. What you are not guaranteed and you're not necessarily getting when you pay for a college education is high quality teaching. You may get it and you may not. And if you go to college, you're going to have some classes that will have high quality teachers, people who know how to explain things clearly, people who enjoy teaching, but you're also going to have some classes where the teaching quality is actually a lot worse than you would get if you were to try and learn something on your own. In my chosen degree, every professor did research. And in a lot of cases, the professors preferred research to teaching. So they viewed research as their real job and teaching as kind of like this required side gig. And that was detrimental sometimes to the teaching quality that we received. Once again, there were a lot of good professors, but there were some who I knew did not want to teach, didn't like, I don't think most teachers like grading, but they really hated taking the time to grade assignments, didn't enjoy going to office hours. It was all just kind of a required thing that they had to do so they could do their research. And so what that means is a lot of boring lectures, maybe professors being ill prepared for lectures. And that is something where there were a few cases that where I realized that I could learn things a lot better on my own, just watching YouTube or using ChatGPT or the internet. And lectures were really not a great use of my time, other than they'd help me be prepared for an exam, which when it comes to the pursuit of knowledge, exams are not the end all be all. So that's one thing that you're not guaranteed to get, is high quality teaching. A second thing that you're not guaranteed to get in college is one-on-one mentorship. You might be lucky. You might get one-on-one mentorship from one of these experts in the field. If you join a lab or you're doing research, you might get that. But what you'll find in the college setting is that there are a lot of students. So like I mentioned, I was surrounded by maybe a couple hundred students that were studying biomedical engineering and were at the same point in the program that I was. So there's this sometimes lonely feeling of being lost in a sea of students. Professors offer office hours where you can go in and get specialized help with homework problems or assignments, but they're often not offered at a convenient time. So a lot of times there were conflicting classes, so I could never make it to office hours. Number two, some professors don't really like to be there. They don't like to be there for office hours, so they won't even show up unless you schedule an appointment and say that you're going to show up. And number three, it may not feel like personalized mentorship. It is kind of like a chore. Check the box off. Let's get the student out, get them in, get them out. At the college level, you're not guaranteed to get that personalized one-on-one mentorship. Number three is that you're not guaranteed to get learning or understanding. That's something that falls the responsibility on the student. And you may think that finishing a college degree means that you learned all the things that were required for that college degree, but that's not actually the case. And in fact, most people forget most of the classes they took in college, forget most of the things that they learned in college. So earning that college degree proves that you finished something. It doesn't necessarily prove that you learned something. Most people learn a lot, but like I said, the interesting thing is they cram so much information. It's like drinking from a fire hose, that even though I learned a lot in college, I think I forgot most of what I learned. So if you want to learn one thing specifically and get really good at it, college is not necessarily going to provide you with that outcome. If you learn something on your own and fully dive into it and commit to it, that is probably going to give you longer term benefit than a college education will. And the last thing that you're not guaranteed to get in a college education, so this is the fourth thing, is a support system that genuinely cares about you and will support you. There are some people who are fortunate and find really good friends or find a really good mentor, but there are a lot of students who struggle with loneliness in college. They don't feel supported. They may have family, friends, parents at home that are supporting them, but a lot of students go to college far away from home, so that's pretty distant. And what people need is a friend, a mentor, a support system that's right around them. A college or university is not necessarily going to provide that for you, and it doesn't provide it for every student. So I did know of a lot of students that were really struggling with mental health issues, with loneliness, with anxiety, with depression while they were in college. And a lot of those feelings were triggered by the college experience. In the field of engineering, it was very, very high stress. We were learning very quickly. They wanted to teach a lot of concepts very quick and then expected, I'm not going to say perfection, but a very kind of close to perfection performance on exams and assignments. Just to recap, those are the four things that you're not guaranteed to get with a college education. Number one is high quality teaching. Number two, personalized one-on-one mentorship. Number three, actual learning and understanding. And number four, a support system that genuinely cares about and supports you. You might get those things, but they are not guaranteed, and there's something that you have to kind of seek out on your own. This is where I see the benefits of college and some of the shortcomings of a college education. And then I also want to talk about the costs of receiving a college education. And of course, we know about the money. Most bachelor's degrees, I looked up some numbers in the United States for engineering. Kind of the cheapest, if you're paying out of pocket, that you could expect to get if you're in state is maybe $60,000 to $80,000. And if you go to an expensive school and you're out of state and you're paying out of pocket, you could pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, $200,000, $300,000. So there's a very high monetary cost, but what I think is even higher is the time cost. This is something that I ran into when I was deciding whether to go to grad school and get my master's degree. I was figuring out essentially how much time it would take me and then how much that would increase my pay for my career job, and then how much time it would take to earn back the money. So for me, I was fortunate. I was able to do a 4+1 program, which means basically 4 years of the bachelor's degree, and then you can get your master's degree in just one additional year. And the way that works is you can take some grad level classes while you're an undergrad, and you're able to count them toward your graduate degree. So it only cost me 2 extra semesters to get my master's degree, and I did have to pay out of pocket for those semesters. Finding funding for master's degrees in engineering is quite difficult. So I paid out of pocket, and that was a couple tens of thousands of dollars. And not only that, so I compared my route with the route of people who just finished their undergraduate degree and started working. And the average starting salary for where I live in my field for an engineer right out of college is about $70,000 or $80,000. So for my friends who decided to finish their undergraduate degree and go right into work, they would make about $70,000 or $80,000 that first year. I would make zero, and I would pay, let's just say, $20,000. So there's about a $100,000 difference between their route and my route. And of course, having a master's degree allows you a little bit of a higher starting pay, but I found out it's only about $3,000, maybe $5,000. So you could assume that every year I'd make about $3,000 or $5,000 more than my colleagues. Therefore, it would take, let's say, 20 years to catch up. But even that's not realistic, because my friends who went into college 1 year earlier than me had 1 year of seniority in their jobs. And typically you get raises each year, and a raise each year might be $3,000 to $5,000. So really there was no way I would ever make back the money from that lost time going to get my master's degree versus just finishing with my bachelor's degree. So you might wonder, why did I decide to get a master's degree? And the answer is, I decided that at some point was probably going to want to go to grad school, because in some ways it opens more doors for your career. So even though I may not get a higher pay, it could help me make it higher long-term in an engineering career. So I did decide to make that decision. Whether or not it was the right decision, I guess time will tell, but I did enjoy my graduate school experience. So maybe that's the most important reason. I enjoyed those 2 semesters that I spent in grad school, And I did learn some really important things. I really dove in deep. I got to spend a lot of time in hospitals shadowing surgeries and medical procedures. So I think that alone was worth it. And from a money standpoint, it didn't make sense financially to do the master's degree, but it made sense because I cared about it and I gained something personally in my education. So that was the decision that I made. But what I want people to do is to think deeply about these decisions and to realize that financially, going to college may not make the most sense, but if it sets you up for a career that you are going to love and enjoy, then definitely I think it's worth it. Money is just one aspect of a career. It's not the end all be all. It's actually much more important to do something that you find fulfilling and that excites you and motivates you. And if what you care about is learning and education, there are alternatives that exist. So I mentioned a few already. You can go to trade school, you can do apprenticeships, you can start your own business. Something I didn't know about until recently is personalized coaching. That there are people out there in the world offering personalized one-on-one mentorship and coaching to teach you a skill. And that is something that I am now offering to people. And it provides the same 4 benefits that I mentioned in college. Highly committed people, and that's because the coaching does cost money. It's significantly cheaper than college, but it is enough money that people are committed to showing up and committed to learning the things that I teach them. Number 2, you can get community as well with personalized mentorship and coaching, because a lot of these programs come with what's called a mastermind, which is where everybody, like-minded people like yourself who've paid for these coaching experiences, get to be together in a community, and they get to talk with each other, get to know each other, network, leverage resources, learn from each other, ask and answer questions. It's really cool. I'm in a mastermind myself, and I've really enjoyed it. Enjoyed being with people who have similarities with me and who we're all pursuing a common goal. So you get that community through masterminds. Number 3, you get access to experts. So number 1, there's the expert who's teaching the personalized mentorship program. So that's me in the case of my mentorship program. And you also find experts, as I mentioned, in these masterminds, because you get people who've had diverse sets of experiences and people who are coming in with a lot of experience sometimes, and they can help teach and coach the group. And lastly, you get access to resources as well through the connections that people have, whether it's coming from the mentor, the person who's teaching the coaching program, or from the other people in the mastermind. So get a lot of the same benefits that you would in a college education. What you don't get is the degree, so you don't get that status or credential that comes with earning a college degree. But I really think if you want to learn something and learn it deeply and learn from the best and get high quality teaching, I really think that personalized coaching is a great option today that not a lot of people know about. So if you are interested in learning more about my coaching program, it's specifically for high achieving STEM students who are in the teenage age range, who want to learn how to design and build a product and become a real engineer without waiting until after college. This offer is for them, because that's what I teach people to do. It's called Design a Product People Want. And we do exactly that. I teach them how to identify a problem, innovate a solution to it, iterate their prototype until they have a good solution to the problem, and then lastly, gain the confidence to share or sell their work with others. So once again, check out the link in the description if you're interested in learning more about that. I want to conclude today by sharing one more story. When I was in college, I was doing an internship with an orthopedic medical device company, and I had a coworker who was also an intern, and he was the smartest guy. He was close to the same age as me, and he actually was not as far in his college career as I was. He was taking it slow. He would do 1 to 2 classes a semester, and so he was in something like his freshman or sophomore year when I was maybe in my junior year, and I had just a couple years left, but I knew that it was going to take him, at the rate he was going, several years still to finish his college degree. But the interesting thing is, he was a lot better engineer than I was. I would go to him often with questions, and I was always inspired by the answers that he would give and the expertise that he could provide. And I learned once that his secret was searching on the internet. Like, I would come to him with a question, be like, what do you think I should do? How should I do this? And I noticed that he almost took my exact question, typed it into Google, and he was really good at finding answers on the internet. And he was really good at doing projects in his own time. He had built an electric skateboard for himself, and I knew that he did a lot of projects on the side, and it was really neat because he had this hands-on experience with engineering. And what I learned is that I wasn't learning as much in my college education as he was in his own passion projects, side engineering projects. That was an eye-opening experience for me. And once again, I haven't seen him for years now, but he was planning on finishing his college degree, and that was because, once again, that degree is more or less required in my field, in my career field. So college does make sense in a lot of cases and makes sense for a lot of people, but it is not the only option to get a high quality education. And my suggestion would be that even if you do decide to go to college, that you supplement that education with the things I mentioned, such as personalized one-on-one coaching or mentorship, side projects that you're passionate about, and doing your own research on the internet and learning the things that you're interested in and passionate about. Thanks for listening today, and I encourage you, if you enjoyed today's episode, to drop a comment below answering the question, did you go to college, and how has your college degree been useful for you? And was there anything that you wish you would have done differently? Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something today and that you enjoyed discussing this topic as much as I did. We'll see you next time.